How's it going, guys? Today I'm showcasing a mono Aquos deck profile, the first Bakugan of which is Aquos Pegatrix. Just a really good Bakugan, carries 2 shields, has that excellent core effect. For the shield choices, I've picked Aquos Darkus plus 400B for both of them. This is just really good because you put it by yourself, and it's the highest B power boost that the shield core has to offer. And also, if your opponent's not carrying Aquos or Darkus, then they're not going to get a core effect. So that's good. Next, playing Aquos Tertonium. Tertonium's really underrated, I feel, because he's got that strong 502 that you're looking for. That's a pretty on-par B power and damage. And his core effect gives you Frost Strike, which is pretty underrated because if you manage to land on that shield and get the Frost Strike, then you're really hurting any decks that use free flips like Stand Together, Tiger Reflex, or Pact of Darkness. They're going to have to pay the costs for that and still have to pay energy. So it just shuts those kinds of flips down, which I think is really good. And for the last Bakugan, I'm using Aquos Fangzor. Now, most people in their mono Aquos decks would use like a Hyderus Ultra just to bring those 5th and 6th shield cores in. But I think that that's not really the best way to go because Hyderus Ultra's Evo has a Victor ability that lets you play an action card for free. And if you've already won a battle, I feel like you don't really need to be playing action cards, especially since most of Aquos' best action cards are B power boosters. You don't really need to play those after you've already won. But anyway, the cores I've chosen are -5 Flaming Fist and a -3 Fist. Now the reason that those are in here are because you really want to just be landing on the shields. So place these by your opponent, or put them more in the midfield so that if you happen to run out of shield cores, you can land on one and swap it with a card that I'll showcase at some point in the profile. And speaking of that, let's just get on with it. Sweep these to the side. First off, I play Triple Greater Water Boost. Really good flow enabler. Good for turn 1 in tandem with Tides or Floating Waters, just to get you up there in B power and secure that first turn win. I think it's possibly going to get replaced by a 0-cost coming in Age of Aurelus that lets you retract a Bakugan that is open, but maybe not. We'll see what happens with that after some playtesting. Anyway, next, 3 Tides. 3 Tides is really good with that flow ability of plus 400, which you're going to see more often than not because this deck is really good at activating flow. Use it in tandem with Greater Water Boost or some other low-cost card, and you'll hit pretty high B powers pretty early in the game. Speaking of that, Triple Flooding Waters. It's an obvious choice for a deck that carries 3 Aquos Bakugan because it'll be a 1-cost that gives you 600 B power, which outclasses everything in the game except for like Holy Flame for Chaos. So that's really good. Next, for reroll cards, I play 2 Dark Waters, 2 Deep Dive. I've gone back and forth about playing 3rd copies of each of these, but right now I think it's just good at 2 each. Just because, I mean, the amount of times that you'll need to reroll in this deck, it's pretty slim unless you're bad at rolling Aquos Fangzor. Next, 2 Ice Barriers. These are filler cards for the Hurricane Winds. Right now I've only got 1, but I would definitely replace these 2 with Hurricane Winds, just because Hurricane Winds is a really good mid to late game flow enabler, and I really love pairing this with the next card, Wave Slash. If you play Hurricane Winds and Wave Slash, it's 3 cost for plus 1300 B power, which I think is the most that you could possibly get with that amount of energy right now in the game. It's just really, really incredible. And going off of that more, if you don't draw into the 1 Hurricane Winds, you have plenty of 1-cost cards to enable that flow anyway for Wave Slash. So this deck is just really, really good at out-resourcing your opponent in terms of low-cost action cards that give you really high B power. Alright, so moving on to some more niche action cards. I play the 1 Aquafy. This is the card that you want to use if you so happen to land on either of these cores that the Fangzor is bringing. So that's what that's in there for. Next, 1 Blinding Ink, 2 Triple Blast Cannons, and 1 Absorb. This is just a negation package. If I had more than 1 Blinding Ink, I would probably drop the copy of Absorb and the second copy of Triple Blast Cannon just to have 3 Blinding Inks and a Triple Blast Cannon, mainly because you're not going to see too many people carrying a lot of action cards that cost more than 3 energy. But if you do, you still have the 1 Triple Blast Cannon you could draw into. So that's my reasoning behind that. Next up for flip cards, 3 Counter Outsiders, 1 Deep Freeze. It's a low flip card count, but that's just because this deck is designed to draw into as many cards as possible, and if you play a lot of flip cards, that means you're going to draw into a lot of flip cards, and those are dead in your hand. So that's that reasoning. But if you really wanted to play more flip cards, I would bump this up to 2 or 3, just because you're carrying 4 shields, and that means that it's pretty likely that if your opponent rolls on one of your cores that they're going to have a shield attached to them. So that's just a really good flip card. Next for heroes, 2 Strata, 3 Everett Ray. Everett Ray is really good because more often than not you're going to drop this down to 2 or 0 cost and just bump your Bakugan up that much higher than your opponent. It's really easy to stack this guy, play 2 or 3 copies of it in a game as well. All you have to do is draw into it, which is what the Strata's for. Strata, I think, is still really good because you're drawing into extra resources and you're also milling your opponent's deck for 1. You could think of it that way, even though the opponent's card is going in their hand, you're still going to end up out resourcing them because unless they're playing Aquos, you're still playing way more draw cards than your opponent. Lastly, the Evos, 2 Hyper Tertonium. The 4 Frost Strike here has really come in clutch as I've been playing with this deck. Occasionally I'll get the shield with the Tertonium, get the 4 Frost Strike, and my opponent will flip a Pact and have to discard a card and still pay the 4 cost, which is just really excellent, especially since he's only a 3 cost and you can get him out so early. Next, 2 Hyper Pegatrix. This guy's just incredible to play. He's sort of your center stage of the whole deck, best Bakugan in the whole deck. And lastly, for that much more draw power, 3 Hyper Fangzor. I'd definitely be playing the Hyper Pegatrix at 3 if this guy wasn't so good at drawing you into more resources. If I was playing, say, the Hyderus Ultra instead of the Hyper Fangzor, I'd definitely play 2 of Hyderus' Evo and 3 of the Pegatrix Evo as well. Just Hyper Fangzor is so good at drawing you into more combo pieces, refilling your hand. You get it. And that's it for this deck profile. Stay tuned. I've got more profiles that are I'm really excited to bring you guys. I've also got some openings planned for the near future. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe, do whatever, and thanks for watching.